Hey guys, it's Miss Wills. We are going to do a video, in case you missed class today, over Rome Standard 6.62. So the things that you're going to need is either you're going to choose to write this, do this chart on a piece of paper, or you can use Microsoft Word Online. If you are using Word Online, then I want you first to go into Canvas, copy and paste your Standard 6.62 in, and Pizzazzle it. And then I want you to put a document, actually, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. I want you to open a Word document. I suppose I should say that. And in that Word document, you're going to put a table that looks like, let's see here if I can find it, this. Okay, so you can see here where I have my standard, I have it pizzazzled, and then I have a 9x2 table. In the first cell, I have who with a question mark, then Romulus and Remus, Hannibal, Cicero, Julius Caesar, Augustus, Hadrian, Aeneas, and Cincinnatus. In the second column, the second row, I have, in the second row in the first column, I have important facts about these people, and we are going to fill these columns out as we go. So remember, you can pause this video at any time that you want to, and yeah, so here we go. Okay, the first person that we're going to talk about is Aeneas. The Romans believed their history could be traced back to a great Trojan hero named Aeneas. When the Greeks destroyed Troy in the Trojan War, Aeneas fled with his followers. After a long and dangerous journey, he reached Italy. The story of this trip is told in the Aeneid, an epic poem written by a poet named Virgil around 20 BC. Now, the interesting thing about this passage is Aeneas was a character that was in Homer's story, the Iliad and the Odyssey. So you could kind of, I suppose, parallel the Aeneid to the Iliad and the Odyssey and relate the fact that Aeneas was a character in Homer's stories. You could also parallel the poet Virgil with Homer. So the first fact that we're going to write is we're going to go into our column for Aeneas right here, and I'm going to hit Shift 8 and I'm going to put a star there, and then I'm going to type my first fact. Okay, there's a couple of things. Well, let's go ahead and finish reading this though. According to the story, when Aeneas reached Italy, he found several groups of people living there. He formed an alliance with one of these groups, a people called the Latins. Together they fought the other people of Italy. After defeating these opponents, Aeneas married the daughter of the Latin king. Aeneas, his son, and their descendants became prominent rulers in Italy. All right, the first thing that we're going to write down about Aeneas is he was a legend of Rome. Okay, so you can see in my Word document, I have Legend of Rome typed, and I'm ready for my next fact. Aeneas was also a hero of the Trojan War. So the next fact that I've typed on my Word document is hero of the Trojan War. All right, next. Okay, the next fact is he became a prominent ruler in Italy. All right, so I've typed in the next fact about Aeneas. He was a prominent ruler in Italy, and if you don't know what prominent means, prominent is important, well known. Most of the time in today's society, they're probably wealthy. Not always, but can be. All right, so prominent ruler in Italy. The next one, he was known as the father of Rome. Now that wasn't in the passage that we read, but that is a bit more information about him, so we're going to go ahead and add that to our Word doc. All right, and whoops, I didn't capitalize Rome. Let me do that. All right, so we have 4 facts now about Aeneas. A legend of Rome, hero of the Trojan War, prominent ruler in Italy. That is because he married the Latin king's daughter and became a prominent ruler. And he was known as the father of Rome. Now, we've got a couple of things here at the bottom that we've added that would be mythical and historical, and these are both color-coded. That is because some of the people that we're going to be talking about are mythical characters, some of them are historical. It just so happens that Aeneas is a mythical character of Rome. So I'm going to, whoops, sorry, if Word document here will work with me. I'm going to click in front of Aeneas and I'm going to drag down through that whole entire cell, and I'm going to do cell shading, And I'm going to color this the same color as the one that I chose for mythical. So I'm going to choose yellow. I want to go back up, click off somewhere, and you will see that I now have this cell, or these two cells, color-coded yellow for a mythical, because Aeneas was a mythical character. Alright, next one we're going to is Romulus and Remus. Alright, on this slide you're going to see a picture of Aeneas. Aeneas, according to the Aeneid that Virgil wrote, Aeneas carried his father from the burning city of Troy and then searched for a new home for the Trojans. After traveling around the Mediterranean, Aeneas finally settled in Italy. So this is a statue that has been created of Aeneas saving his father's life by carrying him out of the burning city of Troy. This is a picture of Romulus and Remus. Now, Romulus and Remus have an interesting story. They, too, have been acclaimed as being the founders of Rome. The Romans believed that the twins, Romulus and Remus, were descendants of Aeneas, and if you know what a descendant is, then you will know that they were related, because a descendant is a relative of someone else. In Roman legend, Romulus and Remus were rescued and raised by a wolf. Romulus later killed Remus and built the city of Rome. Alright, let's move on to this slide. Among the descendants of Aeneas were the founders of Rome. According to Roman legend, these founders were twin brothers named Romulus and Remus. In the story, these boys led exciting lives. When they were babies, they were put in a basket and thrown into the Tiber River. Alright, they did not drown. This should parallel right here, this story, with a couple of others we've talked about this year in class. Alright, so we're going to go to our document for Romulus and Remus. We're going to go ahead and get ready to put a fact in here. I'm going to change this back to black. Alright, the first fact that we're going to write down for Romulus and Remus is that they were twin boys. Okay, so I have my fact that they were twin boys. Getting ready to put my next fact. I'm going to tell you a little bit of information that we did not read in this slide, in the previous slide. These twin boys were born to a princess, and their father was supposedly Mars, the god of war. So we're going to go ahead and add that fact to our Romulus and Remus category. Born to a princess and Mars, the god of war. Alright, I have that fact. Born to a princess and Mars, the god of war. I'm ready for my next fact. Okay, the next fact about Romulus and Remus is their uncle was a king and he was very jealous. So we're going to add that too. Uncle was king and he was very jealous. Alright, ready for the next one. So, now we're back to what we read in the passage. So their mother put the boys in a basket and put the basket in the Tiber River. So we're going to add that fact. Alright, I have mother put boys in a basket in the Tiber River. We know from what we read just a few minutes ago that they did not drown. They were, though, according to this picture that we read, they were rescued by a she-wolf. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put that fact in. Whoops. A she-wolf is just a female wolf. And I put a comma here because what we're going to find out is story says that they were rescued by a she-wolf, but later a shepherd found them and he raised them. He adopted them and raised them. So we put rescued by a she-wolf, raised by a shepherd. So we're going to add that right here. Raised by a shepherd. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our story. They didn't drown, though, because a wolf rescued them. The wolf cared for the boys for many years. Eventually, a shepherd found the boys and adopted them. After they grew up, Romulus and Remus decided to build a city. Okay, sorry about that. I got interrupted, and I think I was at... Okay, I'm just going to start with the second paragraph. After they grew up, Romulus and Remus decided to build a city to mark the spot where the wolf had rescued them. While they were planning the city, Remus mocked one of his brother's ideas. In other words, he made fun of an idea that his brother had. In a fit of anger, Romulus killed Remus. Then, he built the city and named it Rome after himself. Okay, so the next fact that we're going to write down was, later they planned to build a large city. And we know that large city was on the spot where the wolf had rescued them. So, later planned to build a large city. Basically, the boys got into an argument or a fight. Romulus killed Remus. Romulus built the city of Rome and named it after himself. Alright, now this is a legend. So we have this color coding. Historical, Abraham Lincoln was a historical figure. He was real. George Washington was a historical figure. He was real. Mythical means we're not sure if they were real or not. Or maybe they're just flat out not real. Okay, we don't know if this story is true or not. So we're going to highlight these two cells again. Hopefully this will work out. Yep. And then we're going to do cell shading. And you're going to do the same color that you had chosen for mythical. Mine was yellow. And when I click off, then I will see that my cell and all my facts now are in yellow because Romulus and Remus were mythical characters. Alright, we're moving from there to Cincinnatus. Okay, before we move on to Cincinnatus, we're going to read this one other slide. It has a little bit more information about Romulus and Remus, and we might want to add one more fact. According to the ancient historians, Romulus was the first king of Rome. You might want to go back and put that in your document under your cell, under your column, Romulus and Remus, that Romulus was the first king of Rome. Taking the throne in 753 BC, modern historians believe that Rome could have been founded within 50 years before or after that date. Roman records list 7 kings who ruled the city. Not all of them were Roman. Rome's last 3 kings were Etruscans, members of people who lived north of Rome. The Etruscans, who had been influenced by Greek colonies in Italy, lived in Italy before Rome was founded. The Etruscan kings made great contributions to Roman society. They built huge temples and Rome's first ever sewer. Thank goodness. Many historians think that the Romans learned their alphabet and numbers from the Etruscans. The last Roman king was said to have been a cruel man who had many people killed, including his own advisors. Finally, a group of nobles rose up against him. According to tradition, he was overthrown in 509 BC. The nobles, who no longer wanted kings, created a new government. Alright, we're going to move on to Cincinnatus now. So find your cell under the name Cincinnatus. And I'm going to actually tell you a little bit more about Cincinnatus than this passage tells you, but I'm going to read you this first. Cincinnatus is the most famous dictator from the early Roman Republic. Now, when we hear dictator in today's society, we immediately think, oh, he must have been bad, he must have been cruel, he must have been mean, he must have been awful. Dictators in the ancient world did not have a reputation like they have today. So Cincinnatus actually was a pretty good guy. He was very, very loyal to his republic. And he did, I guess, what he would consider one of a good deed for his republic. Because he wasn't eager to hold on to his power, the Romans considered Cincinnatus an ideal leader. All right, let me explain to you what this means by him not being eager to hold on to his power, because he was a very powerful man for a while. All right, in the Roman Republic, I suppose, or in the ancient Roman time period, dictators usually were only used during a time of crisis, especially since Rome was already a republic. So crisis would be if an enemy came in and threatened you with war, or you were attacked by an enemy. So you would have a crisis on your hands, so you would want a very strong leader or a dictator to take over. Well, in that time, during Cincinnatus' time, a crisis did happen, and it was that a powerful enemy of Rome threatened to destroy the Roman army. So, Cincinnatus had been a respected Roman consul, who was known for his loyalty and his obedience to Rome. So when this powerful army threatened to destroy the Roman army, the Senate appointed Cincinnatus to be the dictator to handle the emergency that they were in. So messengers went out to his farm, because one of the things that he had done was, once he had served his time, he went back to his farm to live a normal life. He was out farming when they got there. They found him plowing the fields, and they told him that Rome needed him to be a dictator. So he immediately went back to Rome. He created an army. He led them into battle. He defeated the enemy, and then he marched them back to Rome and resigned as a dictator. He did this in 16 days. So, after the 16 days, the Republic took back over control, and Cincinnatus returned to his farm. So Cincinnatus was admired because he did what was called his civic duty. And that is the idea that citizens have the responsibility to help their country. And he did that. He helped his country. So, the Romans considered Cincinnatus to be an ideal leader. They admired his abilities and his loyalty to the Republic, and the early citizens of the United States admired the same qualities in their leaders. In fact, some people called George Washington the American Cincinnatus because he refused to run for a third term as president. The people of the state of Ohio also honored Cincinnatus because they named their major city, Cincinnati, after Cincinnatus. So we're going to go to the column Cincinnatus, and the first thing that we're going to write in this column is that he was the most famous dictator in the Roman Republic for only 16 days. Alright, so under Cincinnatus, in this cell, most famous dictator in the Roman Republic for only 16 days. He got the job done, went back home. Alright, next fact about Cincinnatus. He was admired for his civic duty to his country. So, that's going to be our next fact. Admired for his civic duty to his country. Alright, next fact. Romans believed he was the ideal leader. Okay, if something is ideal, it means it's perfect. It fits the cause. It fits the whatever you need. It's like the square or the something that it fits. It just fits, okay? So the Romans believed that he was the ideal leader. He was the best of the best one they could get. So, Romans believed he was the ideal leader. Now, Cincinnatus was not a mythical character. He was a historical figure that really did exist. So, I have my historical figures highlighted in blue. So, I'm going to go back to my cell for Cincinnatus, and I'm going to highlight up this cell, and I'm going to cell shade it blue to match the highlighting that I have for a historical figure, because Cincinnatus was a historical real figure. Next, I'm going to move to Hannibal. So you're going to click over here under Hannibal, and this is where we're going to put our first note. Okay, you guys are going to think that Hannibal is cool because one of the things that Hannibal is most known for is the fact that he had war elephants. That would be in the ancient world like tanks coming through. He had about 80 war elephants. Many historians consider him to be one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. So that's our first fact, that he was considered one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. I didn't say ancient Rome, I said world. And yeah, you can go ahead and put the fact in that he had, sorry about that. He had about 80 war elephants. That would be quite intimidating to see coming toward you. Alright, I have my two facts so far. Considered one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. He had about 80 war elephants. Alright, next. Okay, the next thing in the passage, and I got interrupted again, so I'm not real sure where I am, but I think I know. Anyways, here we go. I'm going to start with sentence 2. From a very early age, Hannibal hated Rome. In 218 BC, he began the Second Punic Wars by attacking one of Rome's allies in Spain. After the war, he became the leader of Carthage. Okay, we're going to stop right there. We're going to take a couple more notes. So we have that Hannibal was one of the greatest generals of the ancient world. He had about 80 war elephants. At an early age, he was taught to hate Rome. So that's going to be our next fact that we write down. Alright, so I have my fact. At an early age, he hated Rome. Alright, next one. He started the Second Punic War. This happened whenever he invaded Rome's ally. So that's going to be our next fact. Our next fact, he started the Second Punic War. Now, I know you probably don't know much about the Punic Wars. We will get to that later. Right now, we're just writing down some facts about some people that you need to know about in Rome. All right, the next one. He became the leader of Carthage. All right, we read that in the passage. So, became the leader of Carthage. And our next fact. Alright, after the war he became the leader of Carthage, but later he was forced by the Romans to flee the city. He went to Asia and joined with a king fighting the Romans there. The king was defeated and Hannibal killed himself so that he wouldn't become a Roman prisoner. Eek. Alright, so the next fact we have is Rome eventually forced him to leave the city of Carthage. So we're going to go back to our document. Alright, we have our fact. Rome forced him to leave Carthage. He traveled to Asia. Oops. Well, if I can get it. And I left out my little... Nope, there it is. Alright, he traveled to Asia. Joined a king and the fight against Rome. So he joined with the Asian king and the fight against Rome. The Asian king was defeated. Hannibal committed suicide, so he would not become a Roman prisoner. Whoops, I cannot type. Alright, there's our facts. There's our facts about Hannibal. Alright, so we have down here, remember, where is it? Mythical or historical. Hannibal was a historical figure, so we're going to highlight this entire column of Hannibal, and I'm going to change it to my cell color that I used for a historical character. Hannibal did exist. Alright, so that's part 1. That's what we did in class today. If you missed it, you need to go ahead and get it caught up and get that done today so that you'll come in tomorrow and you will be ready to go. Alright, see you, bye.